You can probably hear me because we are about to begin Highball Champions. I'm Sam. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. I hope you're all audible. Yeah, we're definitely audible because I can hear it on my own phone to test that this is working. Guess what? It's working. It's only taken 19 months of being locked down to learn this technology and just absolutely nail it. Highball Champion Evening. You're here with Master of Malt. Thanks for joining us. If you've picked up any of the whiskeys we've been featuring this week, cool. We're going to crack them open. We're going to put them in some chilled glasses. We're going to hear the stories of the distilleries and the whiskeys themselves, even the tequila as well. We might hear a little bit about the mixers and the history with our wonderful guests tonight. I am not the highball nerd, but I certainly enjoy consuming them. I hope you do too. We are going to speak to Hannah Lanfear. We're going to speak to Steph Holt, Allison Park, and Juan Coronado from Mijenta. We are going to speak about refreshing drinks. It's been a very hot day here in London, but wherever you are in the world, let's highball together. I will remove that, and I will start to welcome my first friend and guest, Hannah Lanfear. Hi, Hannah.
Hello. What's happening?
What is happening? Well, I've taken over my kitchen. I've kicked everyone out of the kitchen. They said, kids, do not come in. Dinner is postponed until further notice. Daddy's getting his drink on.
There's whiskey happening in here.
Yeah, exactly. What are you up to? How you been?
I'm very well. I'm having a lovely day. I'm excited because I chuffing love a highball.
Well, I know that about you, and that's one of the reasons I invited you. Can you just introduce yourself so everyone knows who you are?
I suppose I spent all my time talking about booze. That's what I do. I teach spirits courses, you know. I have a company called The Mixing Class. We're really hot on using spirits education to help people get to where they want to go in their careers, but also provide opportunity for people that are underserved by our industry. And yeah, I love what I do.
Awesome. Luckily. Well, it's needed. Education helps us navigate a pretty crowded category and drink better, doesn't it? You know, I mean, I think that inclusivity bit you just mentioned is also vital. People who maybe don't have a chance to break in, to educate them and give them the tools they need to do it. It's awesome the work you do. You're always recognized for it. You were in a centerfold, weren't you, with another Hannah?
Hannah Sharman Cox. I saw her only yesterday. She's the
Lovely.
best, Hannah.
It is a small global community. Tonight we're being joined by people across the world. We got New York and London actually, but still that's the best we could do tonight. But we are highballing, talking about the roots of it. Today we think of highball as a Japanese drink, don't we, Hannah? What can you tell us a bit about the history of the highball?
I can give it a go. Here's the thing. I think there are several different characters in history who have tried to lay claim to the highball. And ultimately, I feel like it's almost a drink that made itself, to be honest, because cocktail culture way back when, people didn't have that many things to mix with. So the moment that sparkling water is invented and we take it as such a workaday thing, you know, I've got a sparkling water maker in my kitchen. Anyone can make their own soda. You can buy it in every shop. And I think we kind of think of it as very ordinary, but way back when it was invented, you know, that was something really profound. So 1767 is when soda water is invented. Yeah, by a guy called Joseph Priestley. And from that point onwards, you know, you've got companies like Schweppes who start to commercialize it. And the second that something new is on the market, I think it's almost obvious that people want to mix it with spirits. That's my take on it anyway.
So this is the birth of brandy soda?
Lo and behold, oh yes, brandy soda is brilliant. You've got and that's the thing, you know, we think of the highball as being uniquely whiskey and soda, but the word highball can mean any sort of spirits and mixer, really. And some of my favorites are like the unexpected ones, like Pisco and Cola, delicious by the way. Your Ting-Ray, which is Ray and Nephews and Ting.
Ting, yes.
And Mamie Taylor. I feel like the Mamie Taylor needs to make a comeback. Scotch and ginger ale.
That's just ginger. Yeah, I'd say.
And the horse's neck as well. That would have been one of your old-fashioned ones. Brandy and ginger ale with the lemon peel spiral in the glass.
But the name itself, though, what do we know about the name? Because I mean, it was called a brandy and soda. That's part of the history of Scotch whiskey. It comes up when they talk about phylloxera and whiskey, you know, filling the glasses of middle classes when phylloxera killed the grapes of Europe. Mm-hmm. What about the name highball?
So again, I think there's a whole bunch of different stories, but the one I like is from the late great old pal Gary Regan, who found some references and put things together. So apparently back in your era of steam trains, before you set off, you needed to make sure that your water tank was full because it provided all the steam for the train. So it was like a ballcock system. So you'd, you know, pour on your horn. That's not the word, is it? What would we call that when you make a whistling sound on a train?
I know what you mean, though. Yeah. All right.
You know, the thingy. Anyway, so you'd pull it twice and then one long one as well. So you had two short blasts, one long one, and it became known as a highball because it meant that you had enough water in your tank to proceed on your journey. And that's Gary's take on it. And I like it so much that I think I'm going to ignore the rest and keep that one. I like it. I bet Steph has got a bunch of stories as well.
Well, like Hannah suggests, we've got Steph Holt, we've got Juan Coronado, and we have Alison Brenne to speak about their different global approaches to this highball. Hannah, come join us again later if you're happy to stick around. Yes. We'll pop people in the night, and hopefully we can all chat at the end. If you got questions, ask them. We will address them. I will hopefully see them eventually. We're going to bang through a few drinks, but I think, Hannah, maybe before anything, do you have a drink in front of
you? I know that we were going to do that, and truth be told, my house is a building site at the moment, and I realised that all of my whiskey is under sheeting somewhere else.
You're a spirits educator. Can you teach me and our viewers how to make a highball?
Okay, well, you know, first of all, I just want to say it's one of my favourite drinks because Master and Malt, you know, we're all about the whiskey. Everybody loves drinking whiskey, but it's such a potent spirit. Like, how often are we actually drinking it? But this application of whiskey and soda gives you an opportunity to drink your favorite spirit more often, more of the time, incorporate it into dining, into social occasions. And let's cut to the chase and talk about how to make one then. So the way that I like is the very sort of prim Japanese method, where, you know, every movement is very measured and careful, and you'll begin with a large measure.
So that means I say, Hannah Landfear, Hannah Landfear.
Pour it like you have a clutch of children that you're trying to escape from in your kitchen. Gug, 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 gug. Anyway, so you pour your whiskey, and we're mixing it with ice at this point, right? And now we're going to stir it down a bit. So before adding anything. Yeah, before adding anything at all. And that's going to give us an opportunity to take a little bit of the edge off the whiskey. The thing is that we're ultimately about to dilute it with soda, but, you know, it does, I believe it helps prepare the drink so that the very first sip is going to be delicious rather than a little bit too punchy, you know. So give it a stir. And the way the Japanese method is to give it 13.5 stirs in a anti-clockwise direction.
Oh, shit, thank God I've been doing that right. Back. Okay. So I think I've done 7.
I'm just kidding. You're doing just fine. Yeah, so you give it a stir. There we go. Ideal. Look at that. And now...
Who's next?
Soda. It's that simple. And the soda water is an important element. Like, the fact that it's carbonated is going to help lift aroma out of the glass, and, you know, it really brings spirits to life. An important aspect of that is all the mineral content that you've got in soda as well. Oh, and yeah, you can augment it by...
That's what I like to do. I'm no mixologist.
Is this like biting it or something?
Yeah, it's bringing the mint into the region of the drink.
Yeah, I like it. That's nice. Very nice. Mm-hmm. We could do a little lemon twist if you wanted, but ultimately it doesn't have to be fancy. And that's the thing. I'm thrilled that Steph's on the show because me and Steph went to a rave in Mexico and we drank whiskey and soda all night and we felt great the day after the following day.
There is a story there that I want to hear. For my first one, I'm using, I forget where my camera is. I'm using World Whiskey.
What's that?
World Whiskey Blend from That Boutique Whiskey Company. Boutique is an independent bottler of Scotch whiskeys, but world whiskeys from all around the world. They get single cask and put them in limited edition bottlings. But this was a whiskey they made to really bring people who are used to nosing and tasting and taking whiskey very seriously to remind them that it's just a drink. You know, on the back, it even displays, it recommends using the mixed of the world. So it's whiskeys from around the world made to be drunk the way the world drinks whiskey. And that's mixed with soda, with green tea, with ginger ale, with Coca-Cola, with coconut water in South America. And that's the idea of the World Whiskey Blend, taking whiskeys from all over the world to be highly mixable and no fucking Glencairn glasses. So cheers. Ah, that is refreshing. I can see the appeal of that. Whatever you guys have at home, hopefully it will work. I would try to avoid anything too woody, but generally soda is going to bring out big vanilla notes and everything else in the whiskey. We are going to invite, and I'll catch you later. Okay, bud?
Bye.
Bye-bye. Let's bring Brenne. We don't think of single malt whiskey when we think of France, but we are beginning to. And that's thanks to this woman. Hey, Allison.
What's up? Also, I have to say, your baptism of your first cocktail with the mint. I just wanted to be in a Russian bathhouse and like go through that experience. Like, it was very fun to watch.
There is something therapeutic, and actually, it doesn't. If you put actual mint in it, it overpowers it. But just being in the general area of the rim of the glass, it does something.
I have to say, I'm going to try this method. I haven't just waved it around the drink in a while, but I'm down.
We're all trying new things in lockdown. How you been? So you keeping busy, I see.
Keeping busy, yeah. I'm so grateful that this lockdown happened when we had the advanced technologies that we do, so we can connect internationally while still being in our homes.
It is so true. Thank goodness. It might have been a much stranger time otherwise, but we've done well. And tell us about Brenne then.
Yeah, it might be weird to hear about a French product founded by an American, but just go with us on this journey. The quick bullet points and the history of Brenne, and this is the estate cast. Oh, I don't know how to do this camera. We do also in the US, we have this vintage Brenne 10, which should be coming to Europe this fall. This is the first time I'm saying that out loud, which is actually really cool. But this is what we have in the UK now with Master of Malt and in many other countries around Europe. And it is a single malt whiskey made in the Cognac region of France, right? Cognac is both a spirit and a place, just like champagne is both a place and a wine. So Cognac is a spirit distilled from grapes. Whiskeys, as we know, are distilled from grains, and Cognac is a place. So we make a single malt whiskey in the heart of Cognac, France, using 100% local ingredients. So we're not trucking ingredients in from anywhere else in the world, including our barrels. They come from the forest right next to Cognac, which is the Limousin forest. We are certified organic, 100% organic. And this is beautiful. This is the first single malt in the world that's aged in new French Limousin oak barrels, which means to the consumer, which means to all of you, it's going to taste like creme brulee, right? And then it's also aged in wet Cognac barrels, which means now you're going to add this beautiful punch of fruit. So think blueberry muffin tops and bananas Foster, right? And so for years, I did not drink Brenne in a highball. For years. It always felt too acidic because this is a really fruit-forward, floral, creamy single malt, right? It's your gateway drug. It's a welcome into the whole category of whiskey. It's also for your aficionados who are like, oh, we've tried every whiskey. And I'm like, have you? But then one of my partners was like, oh my gosh, we're drinking Brenne with Perrier. So I reached out to the Perrier people and I'm like, what is going on? Because in my marketing side of my brain, I'm like, this makes all the sense in the world. French whiskey, French water, obviously this is great. But like, why does it actually taste really good? So I got some fun facts, right? The bubbles in Perrier are really light and elegant. Yeah, I'm going to open mine too. They're really elegant. You need light. Yeah, right? They're like champagne bubbles. You need the light mineralization because, as Hannah was saying, the minerals enhance the flavor, but they're not so many minerals that it dilutes the flavor also. And then also those kind of refined bubbles, the bigger the bubbles, the more acid. And the acid doesn't always combine so beautifully with the elegance of Brenne and the approachable flavors of Brenne. So I found that this pairing is not just great for marketing, it actually is really beautiful to taste. So shall we make it?
Yes, please.
Great. Highball glass, just really any tall vessel will work, right? I'm going to say this in American speak. I do 2 ounces. I can't remember what that is. Oh, that not of Perrier. I'm all backwards, you guys.
Yeah, if you do it the other way around, do not drive.
It's not even nighttime here. It's not even lunchtime here.
It'd be nighttime pretty soon if you did it at that ratio.
Do what I do, not what I say, friends. So, I like a good big side of the of your jigger. I do it 2 ounces of Brenne. You can splash in more if you like. Into a glass full of ice. I mean, I was learning something from Hannah. I did not know we needed to do 13 twirls.
That was news.
That was news. Honestly, I don't even use the spoon usually. I just grab this for this presentation, but I do what you did and spin the glass a little bit.
Yeah.
And then depending on what you like, you can see kind of the whiskey and the ice came up about halfway. I'll go ahead and do another quarter of the glass full on that Perrier and see where that puts it flavor wise.
That's wise. Okay.
And then I like a little citrus. This is a dehydrated orange, but I also really prefer lemon wheels. I just didn't have them in time. I'm sorry. But I like a little citrus. If you've got something, it kind of just pulls. Oh yeah, you got lemon.
I do. What do I have to cut? Oh, I know you got this.
Just wave it in the general area.
That's safer and it's less mess. Thank you, Allison.
Just juggle it above the glass. You know, there you go.
There we go.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It smells incredible. It smells like citrus and bananas. It smells incredible. Just from here.
And oh my God, I love this drink because the Perrier punches up the vanilla and doesn't add too much acidity to that vanilla. So you get that creaminess and now it's like champagne cream. Like who doesn't want that? I'd rather have this than a champagne toast.
No, it's delicious. So I wonder about that then. So what's the difference between mineral water and just sparkling water? Because you're talking about, you said you were saying about pH and about acidity.
Yeah. Wow. I'm going to pretend I'm an expert here. I'm not.
No, just from experience. We're not scientists. We're drinkers. That's okay.
Yeah, we're drinkers. So I think, mineral water comes from the ground, right? It has those natural, beautiful minerals in it. And I kind of think of it as when you take a shower in hard water and you get that film that kind of sticks around, right? That's a beautiful texture, right? But that texture also has flavor. So when you add that kind of mineral texture and flavor with the acidity of the bubbles, you just get this really different experience. That's me trying to answer it as best as I can. I will say for anyone really curious, try this drink, right? Get a bottle of Brenne and make really tiny little ones and just top it off with like the soda water you have from your soda machine, from the generic soda brand at home, from Perrier, and see what experience you prefer and how that differs for you. I do have a fun fact about Perrier and your neck of the woods, because the spring was actually bought in 1903 by a British businessman. What's his name? John Harmsworth. And he was responsible for the green iconic bottle. But I'm not here to represent Perrier. I'm here to talk about Brenne. But I just like fun facts.
Well, I think it is interesting. Again, it's a global drink. This highball phenomenon, even just soda as a thing, is truly global. I think it's interesting to see that. Yeah, it's different. You are an American entrepreneur and French whiskey. It's this is the world we live in. It says right on there, pH 5.5. So I didn't even know that was a way you could navigate waters. In the back of mine it does anyway. I don't know what they do in America. It's freedom land there, so they probably don't say anything.
It's just figure it out. This is recyclable in California.
That's not helpful in New York.
No, I don't see that. But yeah, I think it's a really fun drink. I love this also because I find that highballs in general, and especially the Parisian highball, right? The Brenne Perrier combo, it's so delicious, like Hannah was saying, with food. So I'll drink this before, during, and after a meal. I find that it's universal throughout the seasons. It's great next to a pool, just as much as it is when you're like in a room with fireplace running. I mean, I don't have a fireplace, but I can pretend. But like in the winter too, and you kind of want that hydration, and it also is like a lower ABV way to drink your whiskey versus like a Manhattan or something with all booze, or a Boulevardier or something like that.
Well, that's a really good point. I think maybe viewers can relate to that, because people often ask, what food should I have with my whiskey? And drinking whiskey neat. I now worked for Balvenie for years, where we did these food pairing dinners, and I've never found whiskey to be a great pair with most meals. Maybe cheeses, fat-rich foods, really intense flavors it goes great with. Yeah. But as soon as you serve it in this sort of format, it's mouth-filling, it's refreshing, it's cleansing. It's a totally different experience. So that totally makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I drink these with fish, even like from raw fish, from sushi and things like that, to beautiful cooked fishes and things like that. I really like the effervescence in it. I think the bubbles help cut through the food. And then Brenne in and of itself as a whiskey doesn't have a super long finish like some of the peated single malts or something like that. So it's not going to coat your palate. So you can keep eating your food and taste your food, and then come back to the drink and kind of share in that experience together.
Well, you mentioned sushi, and most of us know that the highball craze really went nuts in Japan, where in Japan in these izakaya bars, on tap you get what's the state of that in New York or in the States?
Oh, I haven't been out in 18 months. I have no idea. I have no clue.
Fair. All right. What was it like? All right. No.
I've been to izakayas in Tokyo, in Kyoto, and I love that frosted beer mug. I do think highballs were really ramping up right before the COVID shutdown. And I'm going to be really curious to see what are the popular mixology plays in on-premise, in restaurants and things, once everything really comes back online. But during COVID, we've seen, at least in the States, a massive uptick in seltzers. You can go into some places now, and half of their refrigerated sections are seltzer and beer. Like, it's now equal shelf presence as beer. So it's coming. I don't think people realize how easy it is to do this at home. And I love that these two together, you get the sweetness, because Brenne has a lot of like those dessert sweet notes, but you don't have sugar in it, right? You don't have to add all those other like things that can maybe assist in giving headaches or cellulite or anything like that. But I'm not a doctor. I don't know.
Let's not give medical advice on this program. Let's just give drinking advice, because that's what we know. This is a delicious, delicious drink. Some of our viewers, I have to say, have already commented along the lines of, single malt should never be mixed.
I make whiskey, right? I make a single malt. I say, drink a whiskey however it is enjoyable and delicious to you. End of story. If you want to mix it with Diet Coke, go ahead. It took me 10 years to make this one little bottle. I don't care if you want to mix it with something, because you're the one experiencing it.
That's lovely. That's a great attitude. And I think I completely concur. And I think there's a lot of snobbery with Scotch whiskey in particular, but in the enjoyment of fine spirits more generally, there is a lot of snobbery that comes with it. And at the end of the day, it is a drink that brings people together, like you said, from across the world. And that's the beauty that this nectar affords us. I can say, look, I've had 2 highballs, and some people say, oh, well, you dilute the character of the whiskey by doing that. I can tell you, I can completely recognize the DNA of both these drinks, World Whiskey Blend and Brenne. Totally different spirits, but still totally present, even with the mint lashing.
Yeah, and the lemon juggling. Don't forget. Yeah.
And the classic lemon juggling. Listen, Alison, thank you so much for taking the time to be part of this. This is a highball champion drink. This is absolutely beautiful. Really, really delicious. It already is a gorgeous whiskey, but I've never had it like this. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Good to see you.
All right. If you can stick around, if there's any more questions, we'll bug you with it. But if you need to jump off, I totally understand, and we'll see you again in a bit. Thank you. Now you're just back with me, but not for long, because we're going to stay in New York City, and we are going to invite Juan Cortado. We're going to move to the world of tequila. And you think, what, tequila and a highball? I thought it was a Scotch drink. I thought it was a brandy and soda. Well, it is any drink that you mix, really. And tequila is coming for you. Juan, hey.
Hey, how's it going? How are you, Sam? Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you.
Oh, I'm delighted you could be here, man. This is so cool. I hope everyone can hear you all right. Can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you perfectly.
Perfect. Let's begin at the beginning then. I think for a lot of people watching, they're like, Mijenta, I know tequila or I don't know anything about tequila. Can you start with what is a tequila drink and then tell us a bit about Mijenta?
Cool. Let me just pedal back a bit, and I definitely enjoy Alison's presentation. Very cool, and the interaction with you. And I concur with you guys. Like at the end of the day, we are selling high water spirits. Basically, 40% on every bottle it's alcohol. The rest, 60%, is water. So water is key. A highball, the integrity of a highball depends on the preservation and the attitude of the spirit that you're about to add, your eyes, and of course, you need water. And that's a highball. It could be carbonated, it could not be, but at the end of the day, it is the utmost and delicious, refreshing cocktail on the planet. You can go to Cuba and have El Mismo, which is a very classic highball made with rum. You can go to Texas and ask for a ranch water, which is the hottest drink right now in Texas, by the way. Which is with Topo Chico and tequila, of course, Mijenta. You can go to Mexico and have a Paloma, which is type of a highball as well. And then from there you go to Japan, Scotland, you name it. But there's common denominators. So with base spirit, ice, and a good source of water. In our case, and of course, I launched Mijenta back in September 2020. Both decisions to make during this pandemic and the world like being not knowing where things were going to happen. But anyways, fortune, as they say, fortune favors the brave, right? I read that somewhere. Let's see if it happens. At the end of the day, I'm producing a tequila from Los Altos de Jalisco, which is a town called Arandas, which the altitude there is 1,600 meters above the sea level, which is pretty high. And I'm dedicating my highball called the Camaleon or the Chameleon, because it changes color, to the flora and the foresta, the vegetation that happens throughout a year in Arandas. Arandas is known for several things. Of course, Blue Weber agave, aka production of it tequila. We all know that. They are larger producers of berries, the whole state of Jalisco, so lots of berries and flowers. And also, they produce Miss Universe. They had like 3 Miss Universe in the past few years, and a few second runners too. So the first time I went to Arandas, I was, not the typical Mexico scenario that you see. People is very tall and very pale there, so they have a lot of French and Spanish influence within the last names and the cultures there. But nevertheless, my highball consists of Mijenta Tequila Blanco, which is going to be the base of my cocktail, which is going to add that beautiful scenario and pristine aromas of Arandas, bring it into the glass. Then I'm going to mix it in with lime juice, a little bit of lime juice to make it even more refreshing and citrusy. Then I did a syrup, very simple. I took lemongrass, boiled some simple syrup with it, and just put it in my blender and strain it. So I have a lemongrass simple syrup that's super easy. Last but not least, I like to make the Camaleon with bubbles as well. So I like to use tepache. Tepache is a fermented pineapple juice that you cook with piloncillo. You can buy it in every market. It's very popular, especially during the summer times. Here in New York City, any bodega will have tepache nowadays, which is very cool. So let's go ahead and make one. Ready? All right.
Yes, please. I'm ready. Now, again, I'm maybe one of those people who assumes that grains, cereal grains, are the source of most of the spirits that we use in highball. So now we're dealing with agave. What can we expect flavor-wise?
That's a great question. So there's going to be a beautiful melange of cooked agave notes, which is similar to maple, caramel, beautiful notes of grassiness as well, because of Blanco tequila, it's unfiltered. You will find notes of cucumber, cantaloupe melon there as well, but the notes of the agave cooked, it's quite predominant and elegant in the cocktail. So that will be the face. That mixed with the lemongrass is going to be very surprising. So as I mentioned before, this cocktail is an evolving cocktail. As the name Camaleon or Chameleon, it changes colors. This is basically what I call 2 for 1. You get 2 cocktails in one glass. So it's gonna smell like something and taste like, a cocktail. Then it's gonna evolve, and the color is gonna start like to turn a little red and pink, as you see this one that I already started a while ago. But let's go ahead and make one. So
Yes, please.
filled with ice, we're gonna add 1.5 ounces of our Mijenta Tequila Blanco.
So how do we know 1.5? We go Coronado, Coronado, Coronado.
There you go. All right. Then I'm going to proceed and add half an ounce of lime juice.
How much
an
lime
ounce.
juice? Half a lime?
Half an ounce, yeah. It will be approximately half a lime, yeah. I'll wait for a little bit. Then I have this beautiful lemongrass syrup that I made, which is quite nice. It's very refreshing. So let's go ahead and add half an ounce as well. There we go. And then I'm going to add 1.5 ounces of my tepache. All right. If you don't have tepache, it's okay to use pineapple juice and a splash of club soda if you have it. It's fine.
Okay, that's a half ounce of what again?
So you're gonna add half an ounce of 3/4 of an ounce of pineapple juice. Yeah. And you're gonna add half an ounce of club soda. You have it right there in front of you.
Nice. Yes, I do. Allison, we're using Perrier. I hope that's okay. I ran to the shop 5 minutes before we went live to get it. We're going to use it, baby. And then we're going to Gary Regan.
With more ice. All the way to the top.
Oh my.
Very nice and simple stir.
That tastes like one of your 5 a day. That tastes healthy. Wow. What a crazy
ingredient already pretty much mixed in there. I'm just simply gonna use tea to garnish my cocktail. I'm using right now a hibiscus berries tea, which is like dry berries. We can make this at home. Dehydrated berries and hibiscus, and that's gonna be my garnish on the top. A nice bar spoon stuff, and we'll pretty much take. Within a few minutes of having a couple of sips, the cocktail is going to change color, aroma, and flavors.
Because the tea leaf?
Yeah, with the tea on top, yeah. It's berries and hibiscus tea. So I made this from home myself, like, I dehydrated berries and hibiscus, and just leave it there on the top. And
I brewed some tea. I didn't know you wanted it dry.
Yeah, dry tea. It's dry tea and orange. There you go. Salute.
Salud.
And I don't know if you have more tea out there, but this is the beautiful highball that we make. We call it the Jalisco highball. All right. So cheers to you. Thank you, Sam, for having me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's summertime. It's highball time. Thank you. From Mijenta, por la tierra, por la gente, por la vida. Salud.
Gracias. That is a totally different experience than the 2 drinks I've had so far, but very full flavored. It's vegetal, so you get the agave and everything. The pineapple bounces out really beautifully. It's not super sweet. It's herbal and alive. Does that make sense? It feels like alive.
Tangy, alive. The tequila neither disappear there. Hiding behind the cocktail, you totally taste the fruit flavors of Mijenta and the whole scenario that I was describing from Arandas, from the town. It's quite delicious.
Yeah, it's wicked. So, I mean, in the UK, tequila, I lived in the US for years. I'm from Canada, and I really got my eyes open to agave spirits when I lived in the States. But here in the UK, it's still a burgeoning scene. It's still a new thing. It's kind of a hard sell, if I'm totally honest. Can you tell us a bit, like, how is that going? And what tell us about Mijenta itself?
Well, tequila as a category is on fire right now. The segment is, you can't produce enough tequila right now. It's basically the spirit of passion, as everybody knows. I don't need to tell you. Celebrities, non-celebrities, good-looking people, actors, you name it. Everybody wants in the tequila business. But tequila as a spirit has a lot of history, a lot of tradition, which is very important, as a foundation. Then, as a beverage, as a spirit, it has a very complex and rigorous production method. To make tequila, you definitely have to follow up the denomination of origin of tequila, and then all the certifications and legislations that are based on the production of tequila, which is quite rigorous. So I would say that tequila, it's it's one of those hard spirits out there that definitely requires a lot of man work, hard work, because you have to pretty much plant agave. And in the industry right now, the average to harvest agave plants, the blue pepper, is 5 years. I'm harvesting at 6 and 7. Why? Why is that? I like to be patient. If Mother Nature is taking their time giving us these treasures, I want to take my time also producing them. In my scenario, my experience, blue pepper agave will develop the true maturity and flavors when it's about 6 and 7 years old. You start seeing some of the blossoming the quiote, which tells you that the plant is of age already. And as I always say, these plants died out of love. Once that flower blossoms, that's the end of the cycle of the plant. So you have to be very vigilant during those 5, 6, 7 years of the life of the agave. Then after that, the process, you have to soften these pineapples, as we call them, piñas, agaves, and cook them. Low pressure for me, it's always the best thing. I like to say I like to make tequila like my grandmother used to cook, with very low heat. You know, you don't want to burn it. You want to make sure you preserve the aromas and all the flavors, and you want to create ash at all. So you want to take your time. Then it's the whole process of extracting the sugars, fermenting, and then distilling. You asked me about in London, it's a very slow-paced movement, but watch it. I'm coming to London soon, so there's going to be an avalanche of tequila factors coming to your town. So in New York, all these beverages, all the spirits, yeah.
Great. Among spirits fans, tequila, mezcal, the agave spirits is recognized and loved, but I still think there's more to be done to justify it. It has this negative association, unfortunately. It's just not deserved. I love the description you just said, that it's a rigorous drink to make. Nothing good should come easy. And so I love that idea. And I've heard, I don't know what you think about this, I've heard the metaphor with whiskey, or whether it's French whiskey or Scotch whiskey or whiskey from around the world, grain spirits around the world, they mature in wood, but agave spirits mature in the ground.
True, there's so many species of agaves and so many ways of producing several distillates, from charandas, which is sugarcane, from sotol, which is a type of agave, from silla, you name it, tequila, mezcal. So these methods are definitely what give the personality. If you were to cook a tequila, a blue pepper agave, the old ways, which is in a ground peat, you will get smoky flavors such as you get with single malt. Why not?
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Juan. There's so much more to learn about tequila. Please look it up. Come to Master Malt. We've got a whole bunch of information. There's different ones you can try. Get out with friends and try them. I mean, when I got into whiskey, a great thing to do is throw a fiver with a bunch of buddies and buy a few bottles to try it. It's the exploration that's a journey. It's not just about shots when it's too late to be drinking. Tequila is so much more than that, and I hope you can try to explore it more. Juan, thanks a lot for being here, buddy. Stick around if you can, and we're going to come back and take some questions from our viewers. I'm going to move along, and then I will temporarily make people have to suffer. Only me. But only temporarily. That is a stunning drink, and completely different than the first two I had, and a real eye-opener, I have to say. So now we're going to go to Japan, where we hear about the draft cocktails, and Lost in Translation seems to have really kicked Japanese whiskey into cultural awareness in the West. But it's not a new thing. I've heard people many times say, oh, the Japanese are making scotch now. No, the Japanese have been making single malt really since the 1920s. And Steph Holt is perfectly suited to come tell us more about it. the phenomenon of the highball and how to actually enjoy whiskey instead of just sticking it in a Glencairn glass and being a nerd.
Hiya. How you doing?
Wicked. I'm so glad you were here. Now, I know Hannah Landfair, who was here off the top, if you're just tuning in, only joined me today because she learned you were going to be here. So I'm going to bring her in for this chat. Is that okay? Are you comfortable with that?
I think we need to get the rave story happening, don't we?
Oh, then we're going to need to hear about that rave. Yes. All right, Hannah, I'll save you for that. I will save you for that. Steph, which Japanese whiskey we're trying? There's so many. I think for a lot of people, it's an intimidating category to get into. So tell us a bit about, yeah, there you go.
That's right. So I'm going to hold it next to my face, the right way around. This is Nikka Days. So it is a blended whiskey from the Nikka company. So it is perfectly suited. Obviously, as the name kind of implies, these long, more refreshing drinks, less of your kind of late night after dinner sipping, and more of the kind of drinking it slightly earlier and in a more refreshing, potentially a sunny day. I think the bottle for me really makes me think of a sunny day. So yes, are we going to make the drink now? Are you ready?
Well, no, I'm just opening while you let's slow down a second. Why do you give a shit? Tell us a bit about you, Steph. How you came to whiskey and the love of the spirit.
Yes, I got a bartending job part-time when I was at uni in Edinburgh. And it was more a way of like, yeah, more a way of like no way. There we go. Yeah, so I used to like go out every night when I was a student, and I was like, I'm spending too much money and drinking too much. So I got a job in a bar thinking, this is great, like 2 nights a week, I won't spend any money. I'll still drink with my friends because they will all come and see me. But then completely fell in love with the whole world of cocktails, and the whole, the history of spirits was just amazing to me, and all the differences. And I think I felt up until then that every bar just had the same booze. And they must just like almost like a kind of communist state, just be like, we'll take our weekly order, thank you. And I didn't realize there's this whole industry behind it. And then, yeah, I met a bunch of kind of different people from different spirits industries and from different companies, and sort of realized that was what I, was super interested in. And so I moved to London, ran some bars down here, was a rum ambassador for 7 years. So did a bit of that, traveling around the Caribbean. And then moved into whiskey 6 years ago. So yeah, kind of, I always thought I'd end up in whiskey because my family's Scottish, but I thought I'd be a bit older, and I thought it would be kind of, old, dusty Scotch type of thing, and ended up with incredible range. Not just Nikka, I worked with quite a few other whiskies from Asia, so Kavalan and Amrit, and then got some American whiskies, Canadian whiskies, Irish whiskies, as well as some delicious Scotches as well. So
that's a cool thing of working for someone like you work for. You aren't tied to single brands. So what are some of the other brands that you think would work in a highball that you work with? Because it doesn't work with every drink, does it?
All of them. No, all of them. And actually, like, quite often at events, people will ask me to run their sort of post-event bar, for the exhibitors, because I'll have, 7 different brands. And I'm like, well, if people have been talking about whiskey all day, they probably don't want to stand and sip more whiskey as the kind of exhibitor drinks after this event. So I'll do a highball bar, and I'll come up with a highball with each one of my brands. And so, like those little kind of secrets, like, obviously there's water and there's soda water, which are your kind of more traditional things in Japan, but then you can go to, anything still or anything fizzy, depending on where you use. So coconut water, aloe vera juice, you can go ginger beer, ginger ale, you can go elderflower presse. And there's lots of these incredible things that all work deliciously with whiskey, if so long, make the right pairing. Citrus plus anything smoky is a winner. Tango. Tango. I've tried all of them. Don't do tango.
Well, that's a great thing. A viewer did. I'm trying to look at my phone over here. I'm not texting anyone, I promise. I'm looking at my phone to get questions. And that is something someone asked, favorite combo. So you're saying citrus and peat.
Citrus and peat is great. So we're doing, this is a little bit smoky today, so we're going to do a yuzu sort of seltzer, but, Orangina, it's delicious. So I used to spend quite a lot of my time traveling around the country on trains, and I quite often have, this much whiskey left in a bottle on my way home, and I'd be like, well, this is rude. This is just silly, me carrying this much whiskey home. So I'd go to like the shop at the train station, buy all the mixes, and see what happens. Sit on the train like a classic British person, and make mixes with all of my whiskeys with all the mixes I could get my hands on. So yeah, elderflower presse was a mind blower for me. I almost did that tonight. Because it just completely blew my mind about how delicious it was. So with this, it's great. Nikka from the barrel as well. and the ones it works particularly well with. But yeah, it's
Nice.
sort of experimentation. There's way more mixes than you think there is.
Well, I learned that over lockdown. Necessity is the mother of invention, and we couldn't really get out very much. We did some shopping delivery, but we really lived off the pantry and what was left. And I was doing with World Whiskey Blend, I was doing any old soda we had, cream sodas that were disgusting, chicken soup, anything we had in the cupboard, the cans of chicken soup and broth, just to try. And you're right, when your eyes get open to the fact that, yeah, it doesn't work with every drink, but lengthening a drink, lengthening a richly flavored malt or grain whiskey or tequila is actually, there's so much potential, flavor potential there.
And it's such a good idea. I think a lot of people, tasting something neat, it is intense, it's powerful. And I sort of liken it a little bit in quite a lot of my trainings to, you shine a white light at a prism and you end up with that rainbow. You've spread it out. The white light itself, you shouldn't look at it as blinding, but suddenly you're able to see all the different components, all the different flavor parts by lengthening it. So
all these years, I didn't know I stole that metaphor from you. I use the same for blending because grain whiskey is the great light. That's exactly crazy. That's brilliant, buddy. All right, so help me make a Nikka.
Yes, I need to. I'm on the sofa, so I'm kind of not in perfect bar conditions, but tall glass. And one of Hannah's stories about the name as well. Like sometimes people sort of say the name of the highball potentially could have come from the tall glass. Which I'm not sure. Like, there's a lot of names. There's apparently a golf-related one as well.
What do you think, Hannah?
Why?
The tall glass, high balls of ice.
Yeah, so a ball was apparently a measure of spirit. So like a measure, but we've made it high. So I don't know.
I knew Steph was going to have good stories. I'm telling you. Ty's come to visit. Ty's in the background.
Oh, so she. Oh yeah, no, she can. She's on her cat palace. So I'm gonna just pour a double measure of whiskey in here. I don't have enough hands to actually measure this until the glass and
double. So we will say
bottle,
Stephanie hold, Stephanie hold, Stephanie hold, Stephanie hold. That's probably a double.
Yeah, and then we've got this delicious, and it's hilarious because Alison just did such a great job telling you sort of nuggets of information about Perrier. I was like Googling while I was waiting, like, oh my goodness, I don't know anything about this apart from it's delicious. So it's called Something and Nothing Yuzu Seltzer. And I discovered it recently, and I don't like it. Just ended up in my fridge. People come around and bring me things, and I have no idea how I got it. So I just googled it to find out where it comes from. And I am in Hackney, and guess where these guys come from? They are based in Hackney. So it's almost like I did this on purpose, which I didn't. But it's bloody delicious. So those of you who aren't sure, and I wasn't really like a seltzer. It's not really a word we use so much, I think, in Britain. But I think it just, taken to be like a slightly flavored sparkling water. So not a soft drink, not with tons of sugar added, not with a bunch of stuff in it. It's quite lightly done. And yuzu, for those who aren't sure, is like a Japanese citrus. So it's slightly more aromatic than a lime, and not as sour as a lemon. It's got a really, really unique flavor. So just pour a bunch of that in.
Well, I couldn't find it, buddy. I'm really sorry. I tried to look for it today, so I'm just using a lemon soda.
Oh, okay. Well, so yeah, imagine more aromatics. Imagine more interesting flavor.
It's a Hackney company. I got to demand it in my local.
It's on Master of Malt. It was sold out. So
it was sold out. I know. That's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna just. And it's supposed to be garnished with a piece of lemon, but I did the same as you just before I started and rifled through my fridge and was like, oh, no, just use that for dinner. I apologize. So no garnish here. Cheers. Kampai, which actually in Japan would mean we'd have to neck it, which let's not do that. But we can say cheers. It's okay. Oh, and a lamphir. I wish you were having one of these as well.
So the whiskey itself, do you ever? So this is something. There's citrus flavor. There's yuzu in the thing you have. Is Nikka Days already that sort of bright? Like you said, it's a sunshiny.
Yes, and I've forgotten to talk about it entirely. So it's a blend of grains and malts together, and so it's actually 60% grain whiskey. So Nikka make their own grain whiskey out of corn, using a very old-fashioned still. So it gets quite a lovely kind of coconutty texture, which really comes through in this whiskey. And then some malts as well. So predominantly Mijenta, which is one of Nikka's distilleries. So quite fruity, quite floral, quite herbaceous. So lots of those green kind of notes coming through. And then a tiny wee hint of Yoichi, which is kind of more smoky. It's next to the sea, so it's a bit more salty and oily. So all of these things are kind of combined in this whiskey, and it is super bright and spring-like. I think the label definitely sort of indicates what you're sort of looking for taste. It's quite creamy. There's lots and lots of flavor. Drinking on its own is lovely, but very much. Oh, hello! And now we have, is that Dora? Yes. And so, you know, the vast majority of whiskeys made in Japan end up as blends. The vast majority of whiskeys drunk in Japan are blends. The vast majority of blends drunk in Japan are drunk in drinks like this. So, you know, if we narrow it down a bit, there's like a lot of these being drunk in Japan. And like I say, standard is, you know, your Mizuwari, which is still water, or your highball, which is sparkling water. But like I say, in summer, quite common to get your aloe vera juice or your is aloe, have I said the right thing? Aloe vera. I think I've got the wrong plant. I just had some aloe vera babies from my aloe vera, so I'm now completely distracted. But coconut water and cold green tea. That's the other kind of real big classic one as well. So yeah, and it's with meals. So kind of, again, like talked about earlier, quite hard to drink a neat whiskey throughout an entire meal, although, you know, you can. But this is a great thing to have alongside a meal.
Yeah, like Allison was saying, it does show a new dimension and brings and sort of activates the palate. I think this particular concoction is really enticing and making me very hungry. There could be other reasons for that, but yeah, beautiful. Allison, I'll bring you back in actually if you're still with us, because I know you need to jump away. We probably have some questions, but we can all talk, or we can all listen to that wonderful story of your time. Hey, Allison, welcome back. Maybe we could just briefly speak about the changes in law of Japanese whiskey, because I know a lot of people who would follow Master Malt, pretty highly engaged spirits folk. We've heard rumors that, oh, it's not really Japanese. Oh, what's happening? I mean, whatever that means. This is a tradition that's existed for 60 years, but of using foreign spirits. So I wonder on that, with things like Nikka Days or things like the enjoyment of spirits, even domestically in Japan, is there any fear or is it mostly excitement? Because I just put that in context. World Whiskey Blend is inspired by Japanese whiskey blends. The reason we started doing that at Boutique Whiskey Company was because Chichibu and because all these wonderful Japanese whiskeys have been doing it for a long time and doing it beautifully. We have a truly global palette of flavor to play with. Why ignore it? But somehow it's been spun into this negative thing recently. I wonder if we could speak about that, because maybe we all have a perspective on it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's super interesting. And I think, you know, obviously the things that come in aren't even rules. Unfortunately, they're kind of just guidelines at the moment, and doing everything in Japan, it takes a long time. There's lots of very, you know, make sure no one is insulted and make sure everyone is kind of brought into the group and taken along with them. So, you know, the regulations or the guidelines have been put in place by a group of Japanese whiskey companies who traditionally didn't work together very much, or, you know, treated each other as competitors, and now have come together to work towards this. So that shows how important it is. And I think a lot of people are, you know, kind of, you know, stressed about what this meant for what they were drinking, or, you know, this would never happen in Scotch. And you're like, you know, Scotland regulations haven't been there since the Bible. They weren't like, you know, they just got changed recently. So it's as if, you know, you expect a whiskey industry to come fully fledged with all the rules in place. And of course they don't. It's been less than 100 years since Japan's been making whiskey. And so, you know, people are kind of, like I say, starting to sort of become a bit, you know, a bit more of a thing now, a bit more of a kind of, this is what it is, this is what it isn't. Everyone's using these techniques, but like when we use these techniques, let's make sure that we're super clear about it. So it's just about being a bit more open and transparent. And I think it's awesome. It's great. And I think, you know, obviously Nikka have been working alongside all the other companies to make this happen. But I think some people sort of seem shocked and or angry. But then you sort of look at all the data that's been there for all the years. You know, you're kind of like, well, everyone knew there was tons of sort of Scotch being shipped to Japan in bulk. So let's focus on Alison. She has to leave soon.
She does have to leave soon, but it's a parallel thing. It's why I wanted to bring it up, Alison, to try to bring you back in this chat, because I'm sure, and I've witnessed it at your tastings when I lived in the States, and even when we met in Paris, that people are still a bit off-put by French single malt. How do you conquer that? And how have you conquered it?
We're still conquering it every day, and I'm going to try and conquer it in this next meeting I have. But to this point of this regulation, right? I was like the fourth or fifth, it's kind of murky, but person in France making whiskey, and still I think the only woman. But there are over 90 distilleries now in France making whiskey, and some of them are marketing French whiskey, but they're not actually French-made whiskey. So we're going to go through a similar thing that Japan is going through, that India went through in the early 2000s. What does it mean when you say you're French whiskey? For us, it means our barley's grown there, we're fermented, we're distilled, we're aged, and we're bottled there. But that may not be true for every brand. So what does that mean, and how can we better serve the consumer when they want to support these different countries or try these different countries? How do they know what they're really getting, right? It's like very easy as a consumer to be like, oh, but that juice came from Scotland. Okay, but then what happened when it was in another place? Like, so I do agree with Steph. I think this is going to be a really interesting, I don't know, maybe next 10 years or so to see how these countries really try and work to better both the producers and the consumers, and to just make these bridges a lot more happy and accessible.
I have a follow-up, but I know you need to go. Alison, it's so nice seeing you. I can't wait to see you in person, bud.
Ask me on Instagram. We'll talk in our stories. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
That was Alison Park. Thanks for being here. Beautiful Brenne whiskey, absolutely gorgeous whiskey, gorgeous package, and so true to what it is. Yeah, so cool. Any thoughts on that, Hannah, what we were just discussing?
Well, I always have some thoughts, I think. And, talking about these, for good or bad, talking about this new agreement that, distillers in Japan have kind of clubbed together. And I think it's lovely, and it's a real sort of bond of honor among them. And but as Steph was saying, it's not really a legal thing at this point, and the consumer can still absolutely 100% buy a bottle of Japanese whiskey that hasn't got a drop of Japanese whiskey in. But while I think that is perhaps a nefarious practice to bottle something that doesn't have a distillery, that is literally just a kanji character label and modeling itself because of the success that Japanese whiskey is having. Yeah. It's important not to forget the history, I think, of Japanese whiskey. And before Taketsuru went back to Japan had whiskey. They were importing it. They had been introduced to whiskey. It was something that was being used as a trading tool. And so their relationship to whiskey sort of predates their own whiskey industry. And it was customary to buy international whiskies, blend them, and then remarket them to the local audience who might have wanted something different. So I think we can get so wrapped up in this idea of provenance that we ignore cultural heritage and the reasons why something has happened. And to do that would be a disservice, really, to some fantastic blending and fantastic products that come out of Japan.
That's so well said. I totally agree. And I think it's almost like a bigoted perspective that we have a different standard by which we held Japanese whiskey than we do Scotch. Scotch can be foreign owned, foreign barley. Yes, it's protected by law to be made in Scotland, but we don't apply the same expectations in a way, or need of knowledge. We naturally expected that Japanese whiskey was 100% made in Japan, or whatever stereotypes you want to put on it. We projected those. And those who are in the know this has been happening since the 60s. And I don't care. I still buy these products. They're delicious drinks, because that's what matters at the end of the day. How do they taste? Were they made with care and compassion? Recently, we have seen people taking advantage of this, for sure. But I think it is a beautiful thing. And Steph, as a Scot, you probably understand this too, that the one of the great things about the Scotch whiskey industry is that interdependence and working together, which isn't universal. The wine.
Yeah, I think if there wasn't such rules in Scotland, Scottish distilleries and blenders would 100% be doing the same thing too, but the rules prevented them from doing it. So,
yeah.
So I think anyone trying to sort of make out that people in Scotland have more honor or something is just complete nonsense. And it's just an older industry. So therefore it's had time to develop rules. And, traditionally we don't, how many rules do we have about shochu production in the UK? Not very many, because it's not our spirit that we created and came up with. So for them to sort of develop a framework for whiskey, which is not one of their traditional spirits, is an ask. So
therefore, I see it as a time of excitement rather than fear or negativity. I'm really excited for what's about to happen.
Yeah, delicious whiskey is a delicious whiskey, right? So.
Amen. Laws and regulation. I'm going to bring Juan back in, because I wonder how much having strong regulations like they do for tequila and mezcal, having these strong legislative things, there's a perception that inhibits innovation. Do you think that's true?
Well, in the case of tequila, speaking on its own, tequila is a denomination of origin by itself. So that translates into it has to be the product, the raw material has to grow in Mexico. Mexico as a DO has different states that you can grow blue agave for the use of tequila. So on those states, you have to grow, you have to manufacture and do the whole work, the fermentation, your distillation, and as well as bottling. We need to bottle. There is existence and evidence that there's lots of agave in Australia, blue agave right now. It was planted years ago and is thriving very well, but that product can never be called tequila. It's going to be called agave distillate. But I'm not saying that it's not going to be as good as tequila. Perhaps it's delicious and it's fantastic, but the denomination of origin covers it. Mexico has 17 denominations of origins. Some include fruits, and it's a unique terroir. Early on, I mentioned the altitude of Arandas, and that's unique. Like where this beautiful agave grows, and hence the name blue agave. At some point, you're looking at the sky blue, and far in, you don't see the line that divides these plants from the sky, and it's all blue, and it's quite spectacular. And the name, but those denominations are there to control and protect and regulate the production and protection of tequila as a beverage. But yeah, it's quite interesting. Mexico has mangoes, corn. Mexico gave us avocados. Mexico gave us tomatoes. Like all my life, when I was a child, I grew up thinking that tomatoes were Italian. They're from Italy because of all the tomato and the pizza and all this. But when somebody broke it down to me, tomatoes are from Mexico originally. Wow. So we're talking about this unique concentration of rich land that sprouts these beautiful plants that take so many years. Some of the agave plants go for like 35 years to mature. Wow. It's incredible. So it's absorbing all these beautiful nutrients and the sun caressing every day this terroir. Of course, something amazing has to come out of it. It's a chicken bouillon of its own.
Yeah.
Super flavor, super charged. So hence the importance and the beauty of tequila, as a spirit, and the respect that we should apply and oblige to it, because it takes time. 100% tequila, it's not easy to make.
Well, look, in the big spirits world, it's a hard thing to navigate. So some of these rules help. They help the consumer. Never mind the producers and their innovation side. It helps the consumers navigate safely and not get taken advantage of. That is really important. I think we all probably agree. But there is plenty of room to still make amazing drinks, to push the envelope all the time. Even the idea, we've had many comments tonight, people saying, why are we mixing whiskey with mixers? That's sacrilege. Well, I'm sorry, but you're probably wrong. I don't think even the people who make the stuff think it's sacrilege. And I've worked with many of them, people who make Scotch whiskeys, the finest Macallans and Balvennies and Glenfiddicks of the world, are very happy to add water, ice, or even ting. So you'll be surprised. Tonight,
actually, to your point, and Alison made this early on, it is true. At the end of the day, we're all purists. We love the integrity and the preservation of the spirits, and we want it like the way it came out of the hands of the master distillers, and that's a beautiful thing. But at the end of the day, consumers are consumers. If you want to drink my tequila with milk, and that's your choice, that's your preference, go for it. I'm not going to stop you. I mean, that's you. It's a matter of like your personal like flavor profile rather than me imposing you must be drank like this. No, I'm glad that you chose me. I'm glad that you're drinking my spirit, my distillate. Enjoy it. If you want some tips on how I like to drink it, here's the way. But you know, in Mexico, everybody drinks tequila neat. Everybody. And they have a couple of chasers here and too, and that's the way it is. But hey, guess what? I'm not in Mexico right now. I am in New York City, and there's a heat wave coming in. So, hence the highball to my rescue, please, anytime.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. Thanks so much for being here tonight. We've run over an hour. We'll probably wrap it there. We've had that boutique whiskey company's world whiskey blend, whiskeys from around the world made to be mixed. Brenne Whisky, absolutely beautiful. Single malt from France, finished in 2 different types of casks, but really full of bananas and toffee and orange. Gorgeous. Mijenta, like tasting organics. It's alive. It's vibrant. You can taste the plant. You can taste nature, and really absolutely refreshing and organic, beautiful drink. Nikka, fresh, daytime, vibrant and citrusy, vanilla, all these things that go well with soda, go well in a highball. Don't be afraid of mixing your whiskey. It's your whiskey. I think we all have been saying that tonight. You bought it. Drink it the way that gives you pleasure, because that's the ultimate thing at the end of the day. And I promise you, the people who make the stuff agree. When they make it, they're not saying, oh, it has to be put in a Glencairn glass and you have to write a blog post and it has to be given notes. Nope. It has to be enjoyed. Nothing gives the makers more pride than someone enjoying their drink. So go out there, try something, and enjoy it. Thanks a lot for being here, everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Hannah, Steph, Allison, you're gone. Juan, thank you. Good night from Master of Malt. And I don't know if there's an official sign-off. This is the first one of these I've done from Master of Malt. So whatever you say, this is the time when you say it. Good night.